All right. Are we audible at the back? Is everyone able to hear me out? Okay. So we've hit a little roadblock with the speakers that DEFCON was supposed to provide, but they haven't provided the speakers. So we've got our own speakers, and we've tried to run the show, keep the show continued. And yep, let's hope the speakers come soon from DEFCON. So we had an amazing talk, which was the keynote talk from Muslim, which was amazing. Now, up next, we have another talk that is Discord OSINT, an empathetic banana and a data scrapper walk into a search bar. This talk is going to be given by Zach Malinich. Zach is a PSU alum, works within offensive security, and he holds various certifications. And in his talk, he's going to talk about open source intelligence in Discord, and we can go about saying what could go wrong and how open source can help in getting a specific vulnerability out. He'll go and cover the capabilities of OPSEC failures from some of the data scrappers in the past year, and most importantly, overprotections at the user and the server level. So please welcome Zach on the stage.
Yeah, just on sleep.
I think it was good. I mean, your screen's visible on my phone. It's okay, right?
Yeah, it'll be good.
Okay. Great. Awesome.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to my talk on Discord OSINT. So, as just said, my name is Zach. I go by Uber Zach Attack Online. I'm a Penn State alum, and I work in offensive security. All right. So, general overview of the talk. I'm going to give a preface. General overview of OSINT and Discord. I'll be going over some case studies, and then real-world examples with lessons learned. And then at the very end, going over protections that everyone can take, and then some key takeaways. So to begin, in my opinion, Discord is underutilized in OSINT, and it has potential. However, the only downside is that significant investments needed to do it effectively, and there's a lot of consequences involved. The latter half, this won't be clear until later on in the presentation. So, overview, you can, when it comes to using OSINT on people of interest, you can search Discord for personal info, interests in their occupations, accounts tied to their real name, where they could possibly live as well, and then information that might be used against them. So, current methods, this was pretty much the first article that came out on the subject on Discord OSINT from OSINT Curious. The main overview of the article kind of showcased ways that you could search for Discord servers. So for example, in the picture, searching for servers through Google search. There's also like the additional explore feature within Discord, and then there's a lot of third-party websites like DiscordB and Discord. And then it kind of highlighted within the article finding users of importance, and then such as like the owners, administrators, and moderators. So some of the methods that I want to focus on will be chat history in the search function, linked accounts, and then server nicknames, and then one that's pretty important is mutual servers. So the first one, using the Discord search function. This is very similar to Google dorking. It has operators. It can narrow down your searches really well. An example here is searching for a specific username and looking for specific link in a certain channel, as shown. So, overview of these operators. The most important ones I would say are from, so you can narrow down which user you're looking for. Has, to look for any important information regarding links, files, stuff like that. an in case the server that you're looking in has a ton of channels and you need to narrow down the search further. There's other ones like mentions, before and during and after, are like date specific if you're trying to look through a time window, and then pinned. And with these searches as well, you can use keywords. So for example, you could look for password and every instance of password will show up. And there's a chance that you might get an Easter egg, such as empathy banana here. So notable examples that I found looking through and researching for this. First one was a picture that someone posted from their graduation. It was their full face, and also the name of the university that they attended to. On the right here, looking for, searching for a specific user and just seeing the results. There's over 10,000 instances that the person messaged, so that's where using operators would definitely help on narrowing down what you're looking for. And the message below, that's in reference to someone posting a picture of their desk setup, but left their company badge in the picture, so it wasn't good. So the second one I want to focus on are linked accounts. Essentially, it just ties external accounts and displays them in your Discord profile. And this could be extremely useful. So for example, here with this person, we pretty much have 3 different online handles that we can look through, and then real names tied to their GitHub and Spotify account. So we can see their original username tied to their Discord handle, that's also tied to their Instagram. They have a second username for like different gaming accounts, and then a third one for PlayStation and Epic as well. Also note, going forward, some of these pictures are the old UI. Try to get new screenshots with the new one, but I decided the old one looks better within the slides. So the next one I want to focus on are server nicknames. This is kind of similar to linked accounts, but it's not as like direct. You have to kind of dig through and kind of understand what might be tied to that. So common use case here is gaming servers. So let's say you have a Discord account, but you have a different username on like Xbox or PlayStation. You would join a server tied to PlayStation or Xbox and then change your nickname, so it's a lot easier for people to add you. However, there's also cases where you can find someone's real name as well as their server nickname within the mutual servers tab. Which brings me to a quick lesson that I want to share on student hubs. This is kind of a feature that not a lot of people know about, but essentially it allows university students to connect with each other through servers tied to their university. Initial rollouts for this feature were in fall of 2021. I personally added my own cybersecurity club to it, so quite a lot of experience with it. For those unfamiliar, this is like a general overview of what it looks like. This is specific to Penn State, so as you can see, near the top it has the newest servers added to the student hub. These are mainly like location-based or super niche communities, such as like branch campuses and like smaller clubs. On the very right-hand side, there's a lot of personal names being used, like people's full names being used, since they didn't realize that other people would see it if they're in the student hub. And then below with all servers, that's pretty much like the most populated ones. And a note here is that the top 3 here, they have no like Penn State affiliation. So the only way that you could add a server to a student hub is if you have a EDU email. So in this case, one of the admins or mods is either a Penn State student or a faculty member and added these servers. But the important thing is that with the student hub, this allowed me to have like a link view with the mutual servers. Since I could join the student hub, I could pick servers based on that community, such as Penn State. And then once I joined, I could go through and look through different things like class subject, clubs, stuff like that. So this spawned an idea of what if I replaced what I saw in student hubs with cybersecurity at large. So there's obvious differences here. So for example, with student hubs, you have class majors, clubs, social hangouts. And then with cybersecurity, you have specific fields and subjects. You have certain platforms and then servers owned by celebs and companies. What stays the same is looking for key personalities such as moderators, very active people, looking for the goals of the server, what its target audience and community is. So if we wanted to do this, initially it might look like this. So obvious example of a hacking server to join is DEFCON. But once you go through everything, then you kind of collect a pool of all these different cybersecurity servers. And once you join these, it's important to analyze each server that you're in. So who owns it? Why was it made? What the goals are, like a previous... keep it simple, it's pretty much the 5 W's. So this is what it looks like in action with 2 case studies. So case study number 1, there's about 7 mutual servers, but there's a few that like have a common theme between them. The ones that I picked up were Cyberwalk's Academy, which is mostly geared towards like beginners interested in SOC and cloud engineering and security. And this is assumed to be beginners and intermediates. Then we have Security Blue Team and Blue Team Labs Online. This is pretty much hack the box, but more like defensive stuff. This is also assumed to be beginners and intermediates. Then with Track Me and Hack the Box, they're very large training platforms. The people that use them can range from beginners all the way to advanced professionals. And then looking at it all together, there's a heavy emphasis on training that's generally aimed towards beginners and intermediates with a heavy bias with defensive security. And at the specific person of interest, they're most likely a beginner and intermediate, and they're most likely interested in defensive security and certifications. So case study number 2, anyone have any guesses? No? So for this one, the 3 that popped out here, Jay Haddock's Discord. It's very big in bug bounty hunting. And then he also provides training, so this is assumed to be intermediate to professional people within web app security. There's also Pen Tester Labs. This is like a web app pen testing training platform, not as well known as the others, but still fairly large. This is also assumed to be beginners and professionals. And then the last one that caught my eye was Kaido, a very niche security tool, essentially Burp Suite built in Rust. So when we look at all these together, there's an obvious emphasis on web applications, and the training that's tied to these servers is aimed towards like intermediates and professionals. So when looking at the specific person, they're most likely at the professional level and have a heavy interest in web app security. Though it's important to confirm these confirmations, the inferences and assumptions based on the mutual servers don't really prove anything until you have valid confirmation. So this is where you would go through chat history, linked accounts, try to search for like any valid confirmation on the assumptions made. And the other key thing here is this can be applied to locations as well. So for example, B-Sides conferences, they might not be the best example since people travel in to go to them, but they can still prove very effective. However, if you want more manual confirmation, there is a de-anonymization attack. The person that researched this is Hackmon Dev on GitHub. He has the full breakdown on this, and essentially TLDR is the Cloudflare CDN caching can show the location of the person. It's not as accurate, but it does give you a general idea of where someone is. So, notable examples for mutual servers. The key thing here is looking for niche-specific servers that also have requirements, since this will help with making stronger assumptions and inferences. So key examples here are BreakDevRed. This is like an application/invite-based server for OffSec professionals. The other two, Evil Jinx Mastery and Maldev Academy, these are the only ones that I know of that once you buy access to their course, then you can join their server. Kaido, as I mentioned, it's a very niche web tool, so I'm not expecting a lot of people to know about it. And then with Student Hubs, it pretty much fits all three requirements, since you're required to have an EDU email and it's specific to that university that you're a part of. And once you join the Student Hub, then you can pick specific niche clubs and course subjects. So it's easy to imagine that we can expand this out outside of cybersecurity. Though there's one big problem with this. If we want to scale it, we have to deal with the server cap. So as a user, you have about a limit of 100 servers as a free user, 200 as a Nitro user. We cannot use Discord bots like Me6 and build our own, since these have to be manually added by the admins of the server that you're looking for. So we need to use actual accounts, which is also known as self-bots. And this is essentially a game of visibility, but there's a lot of other issues too, such as self-bots are against Discord TOS. There's some math involved, which is the worst, and then the methods and techniques are manually intensive. However, spy.pet entered the picture. It made headlines back in April last year. And within one of the articles, it mentioned how it was designed for people to use it for OSINT. So as soon as I saw that, I decided to join it. The only way you could join was to buy tokens and get access. And pro tip, if you try to buy Solana multiple times in like 5 minutes, your bank will be very mad at you. So at its peak, the stats it had were 14,000 servers being tracked, 600,000 users being tracked, and then about 4 billion messages logged. Some features of note, going through the platform, it would show server info with emojis as shown below. It would also show server member count, and then it would also track server and user bans. However, the most important part of this was user info. So as you can see here on myself, it would show someone's bio, their usernames and nicknames, and all the servers that they're a part of, and also linked accounts. It was also able to keep track of when different usernames were used, and then if you did use a specific server nickname, which server that was a part of. Another cool feature was that it also showed which servers someone left. And the main selling point was the chat history. The biggest thing that it advertised was capturing messages before they were deleted. So as shown here, I got a CVS file of a chat channel from a fairly large server, and I was able to do Control F and find where these messages were sent. So as for myself, the messages in green I'll get to soon, but the message in red I actually sent to the wrong channel. So within like 5 or 10 seconds of sending that message, I actually deleted it and sent it to a private channel. So it wasn't lying when it said it could capture deleted messages. As for the green messages, it actually tracked when I double joined a server. Though it didn't really note that as someone joining, but it was something it was able to capture. However, Discord got wind of it and shut it down. So, end of the story here. The site went down, site owner went into oblivion, and the Discord had the last laugh. So, from this, what can we learn? So the main one was OPSEC. People online were upset about the platform, so they went out and performed OSINT on this individual, and pretty much were able to find his GitHub account, Mastodon, and Discord account as well. The main lesson here was that he kept on posting the same cat images over and over, so it was very easy to tie the accounts together. Lesson 2 was publicity. It didn't get taken down until April. And one of the pages, it said that it started on October 30th, 2023. So this platform was up for about 5 months, and it only took 9 days for it to get shut down. Third lesson here was GDPR violations. So not only did the platform violate Discord COS, but also GDPR, with the added bonus of potentially storing minors' chat history without knowledge. And then the other lesson was the intentions. So if you don't know what Kiwi Farms is, that's a good thing since it's really evil, but essentially when it first started, spy.pet was main aim was to harass trans people and people with different political views, and then using deleted messages against them for harassment. So there was a point in time where the owner decided that he could make more money and changed the certain pages and started advertising it. So with all that, what did it do technically right? It was able to track what servers people were in, even when they left. The infrastructure seemed to work well until it came crashing down, and it was able to view Discord user information. So, hypothetical approach, we would have to plan an approach of what servers to join and how many accounts to use, build better infrastructure that won't get detected, and obviously OPSEC. So, finished project, pretty much build out a C2 and botnet, build spy.pet but better. I could get into the details of how to make this better, but something else popped up. This gets worse. This year on May 21st, 2025, there's about 2 billion Discord messages that researchers in Brazil scraped and used. The actual research is called Discord Unveiled. PDF can be found here. And as you can see, they didn't go into technical specifics on how they did it, but you can kind of surmise what they did do. And then their stats, they're in 3,000 servers, 2 billion messages. They're tracking 4 million unique users, about 5 million, and also about 400,000 bot messages. They did post the data set online, and they anonymized it in their words, but Discord did a good job of taking it off the internet, but you might be able to find it online somewhere. However, the key thing in the article was that it made only one mention of this other platform called Searchboard. So with this one, this was a lot larger in scale than spy.pet. 63, close to 64 billion messages, 285 terabytes of attachments and files, and about 95,000 servers being tracked. So for comparison, spy.pet had about 13 times less messages and 5 times less servers. So with SearchCord, it wasn't the same as spy.pet with its goal of making money. The whole point of making SearchCord was kind of to replace forums and AI content taking over the internet. So the main idea was that it would kind of go through messages in public servers in Discord and make that accessible to the internet instead of having to make an account in Discord and then join them manually. An interesting lesson here, the person posted this tech stack of what they used to build this out. One idea I had was going through and checking like version history, see if there's any vulnerabilities, but I don't think that guy had the insight to that. Some other issues popped up with this. So if someone wanted to opt out of this from having your own server that you own being on SearchCord, the owner pretty much said that they thought it was unfair for an owner to dictate that everyone's messages in their own server would be visible or not. So with how it works, SearchCord was very similar with how it performed data scraping with what the researchers did. So essentially what it does is it scrapes through discoverable servers within Discord's discovery feature. And since you don't have to join the server manually, you enter like a preview mode. So all the public channels that you can see, they scrape through all those messages. Another cool thing was it had a lot of stats and graphs with how much data they had. Big note here was the oldest message that was collected was from 2015, so pretty much near the inception of when Discord was created. Within the screenshot here, it had about 2 billion images, 200 million videos, and 500 random other files collected as well. And it also tracked like the active days of when the users were on. One of the creepiest things was that since it was able to enter the preview mode, it could pretty much replicate what the Discord server could look like on their website. So whenever you did look at a specific server, it did have a ton of stats, so amount of members, channels, all the messages sent, active users, active channels, and also like file extensions sent and names of the files sent as well. And then when it came to its search functionality, I'm just using the simple example of firmware. So if you search the term firmware, all servers, all messages, everything that had the keyword firmware would pop up. So we see here some chats about firmware. And to give you an idea of how big it was, there's about 400 pages of results for this. So one thing that popped out to me was that it did make it so that you couldn't just search a user specifically, you had to search a user within a server. So you couldn't look through all their mutual servers and tie certain connections together. I was thinking of performing some bypasses, but by the time I got to that, it shut down. So, different timeline compared to spy.pet. It went fully operational on the 20th of May. The article came out on SearchCord, kind of tied to the researchers on the 21st, and then I got shut down on the 23rd. However, one thing that stuck out was that the owner stated, or I should start with looking through Web Archive Wayback Machine. The domain kind of went live back in March, but the owner stated that he started it all the way back in 2022 and 2023. So there's about 2 or 3 years of build-up before it came out. So at the very end, the owner of SearchCord came out with their own research and made a whole post about like his experience with it. So summarize, he made it without a lot of programming knowledge. A lot of privacy issues arose from the publicity, such as people adding servers back that were deleted from SearchCord. Had to shut down the project due to the popularity. Talks about the tech used, kind of as what I shown earlier, and then what tech issues arose. All this can be read at searchcord.io. The site is still up today. However, there was another important video drop that happened tied to SearchCord. Within this video that covered SearchCord, the creator brought up how other data scrapers exist, how private data sets are not being advertised. There's just people out there that are just scraping messages. And the biggest thing was that there are data scrapers being advertised to cybercrime groups. So the example that he gave was that there was a focus on mental health servers, with the idea that if someone's having a mental health crisis, then they can target them for extortion, which could also potentially involve minors as well. I tried to verify this on my end, see if this was true, but I was unsuccessful, so I reached out to the creator. He obviously didn't want to give me specifics since I'm a random person on the internet, but ultimately he didn't want to bring more attention to it or make it more popular to make the situation worse, which I respect. But with my conversation with the creator, he did point me in a certain direction, which brings me to this. As of right now, there's another data scraper out there that I found that's not public. There are no articles, no videos on it. This one, very different from spy.pet and SearchCord with its goals, but it's very similar to how spy.pet operated with a botnet. This one, it focuses more on specific online game servers, but it kind of leaned more into collecting Discord messages in the past month or so. And this one's based in Europe. So some other details about the one that I found. People have been doxxed. There's been about 3 people that have been doxxed. The one person, if the claims are true, he did things extremely nefarious. As for the other 2 people, it's more so rumors, so to say. So one of them, the claims were that he also performed nefarious actions, but they didn't really have solid proof. And as for the other one, they made it out to seem that he was a bad person, but the picture that they used was actually from like a charity event that he did. And both of those were taken down within a day of them going up. But other things that I found with this one was that they do advertise on YouTube, and they're currently in Discord Discovery as well. And one key thing was that they were operating on Cloudflare, but they got so many reports that they switched to DDoS Guard, which for people that don't know, Brian Krebs did a investigation on it, and most of the sites that are hosted there are phishing sites or tied to cybercrime. And one of the people that did get doxxed was because he did report the site to Cloudflare, but the email included his personal information, so they kind of extorted him or used it as posturing. So with their stats, they're fairly new, but I've been keeping a close eye on them since July. They started out with about 800,000 messages, 5,000 servers, about 15 million individual files, and then about 20 terabytes stored. And just yesterday I checked again and with their stats, and it's updated to 1.5 million messages, 6,000 servers being tracked, about 41 million individual files being collected, and 42 terabytes stored. So the most important part, in case you're paranoid now, here are some protections that you can take. So for example, at the user level, the biggest thing is removing any linked accounts that you have on your Discord profile, which can be found in connections. And biggest thing, just be mindful of what you post in Discord. It should be obvious, it's the internet. Don't post everything on the internet. And for any server admins or mods, the biggest thing is setting the verification level for users to join at the highest, so they need a phone number to join. And do not have your server discoverable, and have it in discovery. Or a data script will most likely go through all the public channels and get the data. So some optional ones too are tied to direct messages and message requests. Disabling is optional, but if you're extra paranoid, it's required. In the case that if someone does know your actual Discord username, but can't find any chat logs, they can potentially add you as a friend without sending, or not add you as a friend, send a message directly to you without you knowing, and then see what mutual servers you're a part of once the message box pops up. So final takeaways. So overall, OSINT and Discord is feasible if you focus on chat history, linked accounts, server nicknames, and mutual servers. However, to scale it, it requires a lot of preparation and involvement. You might get caught, and it's definitely illegal, so I don't recommend it. As for the data scrapers, there's like two forms of collection. A classic botnet, and then scraping public servers or servers within Discord discovery. This will stay persistent since this is essentially just abusing functionality. Discord is not as private as you think, and your data might be somewhere. Though I need to emphasize the data that might be getting collected is only from public channels. So any messages that you sent in private channels, private group chats, or private servers, those are fine. But any messages sent in a public community and a public channel, those might be getting harvested. And final note, spy.pet was not the first one that came out to perform this type of capability. Discord was similar, and that appeared back in 2020. And as stated before, it's very possible for other undiscovered data scrapers to exist when it comes to data sets that people are collecting without advertising it online to make money, or ones that are not known publicly yet. And another note I want to add is that you might see this capability on alternate platforms, main one being Gilded, which is like a Discord competitor. So with that, that was everything. I need to shout out Brendan, No Text-to-Speech, and Anthony G. This presentation wouldn't be what it is without them. And then everything can be found at my site. Thanks for coming to my talk.